You just got the promotion, or the grade, or the compliment from someone you deeply respect. And instead of feeling proud, you feel a cold, quiet dread. A voice in your head speaks immediately. They made a mistake. They don't know the real me. It's only a matter of time before everyone figures out I don't belong here. You keep waiting to be found out. You have probably assumed this is just low confidence or insecurity or some deep wound from your past. But I want to offer you a completely different explanation, one that starts not with your history but with your hardware. Because what you are experiencing has a clinical name. Psychologists call it the impostor phenomenon, not syndrome, phenomenon. And that word choice matters. A syndrome is something wrong with you. A phenomenon is something that happens to you. It was first identified in 1978 by psychologists Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes. They were studying high-achieving women in academia, the most accomplished people in the room, and they found that the majority of them believed privately and deeply that they had fooled everyone. That finding has held up for 50 years. And the research now shows something even more counterintuitive. The more competent you actually are, the more intensely you tend to feel like a fraud. Let that land. The people most likely to feel like imposters are not the underperformers. They are the high performers, the deep thinkers, the people who care the most. In other words, if you are watching this channel, you are probably in that group. To understand why this happens, we need to look at a cognitive phenomenon called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Most people know the famous part. The less skilled someone is, the more they overestimate their ability. Think of the person who has been playing guitar for 3 weeks and is already convinced they are good. But the other side of that curve is far more important, and almost no one talks about it. As expertise grows, the brain gains a more accurate map of the territory. And that map shows you everything you still don't know. Every gap, every nuance, everything you haven't mastered yet. The amateur sees a small field. The expert sees a vast one. Your brain is not broken. It is too good at seeing its own edges. There is a second mechanism at work. Psychologists call it the transparency illusion. Think about how you experience your own success. You feel every step of the process. The confusion, the wrong turns, the moment you almost quit, the day you were genuinely guessing. But when you look at other people's success, you see only the polished surface. The final result, the confident presentation, you are comparing your internal footage to everyone else's highlight reel, and your brain draws the only logical conclusion. They actually know what they are doing. I am just improvising. But here is the truth. They are improvising too. They are just not showing you. Now, if you identify as an HSP or a supersensor, I need to speak to you directly for a moment. Because your specific brain type makes this worse. Much worse. Remember the depth of processing we talked about in our previous videos. Your brain does not just experience events. It metabolizes them. You replay conversations. You analyze your own performance with a microscope. You feel criticism not as information, but as confirmation of a fear you already held. Neuroscientists have found that people with high sensory processing sensitivity show greater activation in the insula. That is the part of your brain responsible for self-awareness and internal monitoring. In plain language, your self-monitoring system is always running at full power. It notices everything you did wrong, everything you could have done better, every moment you didn't have the answer, and it files those moments as evidence. Evidence for the case your inner voice is constantly building against you. But there is a fatal flaw in that case. It is using selective evidence. Your brain archives your failures with crystal clarity and barely registers your successes. This is called negativity bias. It is ancient. For your ancestors, missing a threat could kill you. Missing a compliment could not. So the brain evolved to catalog danger and dismiss reward. The problem is that your internal jury is hearing a completely one-sided trial. Every piece of evidence for you are a fraud is accepted. Every piece of evidence for you are capable is dismissed as luck. So we need to disrupt the trial. Here's your toolkit. The first tool is the evidence binder. Your brain is an unreliable narrator. So you need an external record. Open a document, a notes app, a physical notebook. Call it whatever you want. Label it proof. Every time something happens that contradicts the imposter story, you write it down. A message from someone you helped, a problem you solved that no one else could. A moment you were terrified and did it anyway. A skill you have now that you didn't have a year ago. You are not doing this to feel good. You are doing it to repair the broken filing system. Your brain will still reach for the fear. But now, when it does, you have a counter-argument that exists outside your own head, something you can actually look at, because the imposter cannot survive contact with documented reality. The second tool is the Reattribution Protocol. Think back to a recent win, something you are secretly dismissing as luck. Now I want you to do something uncomfortable. Write down 3 specific things you personally did that contributed to that outcome, not 3 things that happened to you. 3 things you chose, prepared, executed. Psychologists call this internal attribution. It is the practice of accurately assigning credit to your own agency, not to inflate your ego, but to correct the chronic deflation your brain defaults to. I got lucky is sometimes true, but it is almost never the whole truth. And your habit of using it as the whole truth is costing you your confidence. The third tool is the most powerful and the most counterintuitive. It is called disclosure. The imposter thrives in secrecy. It is the kind of fear that grows in the dark. What the research consistently shows is this: when high achievers share their imposter feelings with someone they trust, they almost always hear the same thing back. I feel that way too. The imposter whispers to you that you are the only one hiding, that everyone else is genuinely certain while you are performing certainty. A single honest conversation can collapse that illusion permanently. You do not have to announce your fear to a room, and just find one person, one peer you respect, and say this: sometimes I wonder if I actually deserve to be here. Do you ever feel that way? Watch what happens. Now let's talk about the long game. Because even with these tools, the voice will return, maybe before a big presentation. Maybe when you step into a room where everyone seems more experienced. When that happens, I want you to use one reframe. Tell yourself this: I am not a fraud who got lucky. I am an expert who is still learning. And both of those things can be true at the same time. Mastery and uncertainty are not opposites. They are companions. Every person at the frontier of anything stands at the edge of what they know. That is not evidence of incompetence. That is the exact address where growth lives. You have not been faking your way here. You have been working your way here. And the fact that you can see your own gaps is the clearest proof that you are exactly the kind of thinker this world needs more of. The fraud cannot see their own gaps. Only the genuinely skilled person can. So the next time that voice calls you a fraud, I want you to hear the actual message underneath it. It is saying, you care deeply about being good at this. That is not a defect. That is integrity. You are not an imposter who accidentally ended up in the room. You are a deep thinker who is learning to trust what you have already built. To help you get started, I have made a free resource for you called the Evidence Binder Template. It has a simple guided format to help you start documenting your proof and run your own reattribution protocol. You can get it using the link in the description. And if you found yourself watching this and thinking, my problem isn't that I dismiss my success, my problem is that I can't even get started because I feel like a fraud before I begin. That is a different layer of the same root. It connects directly to the deep processing and the sensitivity we unpacked in our video on the supersensor. You can watch that one right here. I will see you in the next one.